Has there been any opportunities or any discussions to buy Manchester United? And has it ever been up for sale? What will they make of the protests? Not just the recent protests, the protests what have continued. Will they be concerned? Welcome to the Webby O'Neill channel. With me today, Chris Blackhurst, absolutely fascinating man. Give a background of who you are, Chris, for our viewers here.
I'm Chris Blackhurst. I'm a business journalist, former editor of the Independent newspaper, former city editor of the Evening Standard. In all my career as a journalist now, far too long, nearly 40 years. I've written about all sorts of people, you name them, Robert Maxwell, Rupert Murdoch, Lord Hanson, Richard Branson. They're all people I've met, all people I've dealt with and written about. And I'm always fascinated by people who seem to achieve things that other people can't. And what is it that makes them able to do this? Is it luck? Is it their ability? Do they see an opportunity that others didn't? Do they go for something when others couldn't? I mean, what is it that makes them do this? And the more I thought about Man U...
Manchester United.
Oh, sorry.
Manchester United.
I'm actually a Fulham season ticket holder. Am I allowed to say
No, you're
that?
allowed to say that.
At Fulham, we call you Man U. But Manchester United, the more I thought about Manchester United, the more I thought this is an amazing story. This family who bought the biggest club in the world, and when lots of other people would have wanted to have done the same thing, and how did they do it, and what's their plans for it, and that's where I'm coming from.
People have always been fascinated. Where did they come from? How did they accumulate all that money? I mean, nobody had actually heard of them, and I don't believe the club had ever heard of them before they started accumulating the wealth or the shares.
I think that's right. The family are from Rochester County in New York. Malcolm Glazer's father was a jewellery salesman and repairer. And he used to go door to door. Before that, they were immigrants from Eastern Europe. He had quite a good little business, but it was a little business. It was not, by any stretch of the imagination, a big business. I mean, it was door to door, repairing people's jewellery and watches and things like that. So, you know, not much at all. He died when Malcolm was 15. Malcolm Glazer wasn't particularly scholarly. He wasn't academic, he wasn't that interested in going to school and university. What he was, he'd seen his father, making money, and he took over his father's business, such as it was. From then on, pretty much every cent he made, he gave to the mother. I mean, the death of anyone's father when the boy is so young would have a profound shock. So he was only 15, and he became the breadwinner for the family. And it was a big family. There were 4 sisters and 2 brothers. But Malcolm and the mother, who was called Hannah, they discovered that they were actually very good at it. And they formed this partnership, which really is where the Glazers got their money from. I mean, in the sense that they started buying things, they started accumulating, they started buying property. They bought trailer parks, and they went for retired but quite well-known brands. So Formica kitchen tops. They tried to buy Harley Davidson. They bought Tonka toys, if you remember Tonka toys. Yeah. The fascinating story that I really want to explore, which hasn't really come out properly, is that Hannah, Mrs. Glazer, died in 1992. And she left as I understand it, she left in her will that the money was to go 6 ways to each of the children. Malcolm took exception to this because he felt that all that money was the result of him working and investing and accumulating and growing the money. He said to hell with this, and he, as I understand it, he sued his 4 older sisters and said they weren't entitled to anything. Or at least not the bulk of the estate that had been left to them. And this litigation lasted 10 years. Now that must tell you something. Anyone who sues his own family, wow,
That's
I mean, that's sort
that's
of
the cut of the man.
as the man on my left would say, that's hardcore.
Yeah,
And it really is. And meanwhile, he was growing businesses, and he was desperate to get into major league sport in America, because if you can get a franchise in America, whether it's baseball, basketball, or football, there's no relegation. You are the kingpin of that city, and you've got this fantastic brand. Let's imagine that the European Super League had gone through. That would have been the same result, where you end up owning Manchester United, no fear of relegation, and they're playing Real Madrid, Barcelona, Liverpool.
So he wasn't really daft, was he? Because he's seen sport as a money income.
No.
He's seen, because of the no relegation, it was always there. And, as football fans, you know, you die hard, you go with him through thick and thin, and there was always a revenue. So he could see the stream.
There's always been a thing in this country. We always think of people who own football clubs, rugby clubs, even cricket club, whatever it is. They're not really doing it for the money, because we know that the clubs can go down as well as up. Could be the decision of the referee or VAR that goes against you, and you're suddenly not in the top four. All those things can happen in our sport, but in American sport, it doesn't happen. Bearing in mind American TV, which is huge, and cable, which was then coming through, to own a franchise in one of those sports puts you in the very, very top league of American business. The only thing that challenges it, and some of them, of course, are the same, would be if you owned a casino in Vegas or Atlantic City. And of course, that's what Donald Trump did, or hotels. That's what Trump did. But in American business, owning a franchise is the very top. These are the very richest, most successful business people in the country, and they're household names, and people have heard of them. Malcolm wanted that for the Glazers, and he tried to buy numerous times. First of all, he was trying to buy baseball. He had 3 goes, I think, at trying to buy baseball.
And failed.
Didn't get anywhere. He tried to buy a football team, I think it was in Baltimore, didn't get anywhere with that. Finally, he got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and that put him into the major league. So that was 1995. He bought the Tampa Bay Buck. They finally won the Super Bowl. I'm sure there's people watching this who'll know the exact date, but it was many years later. But that put him into the big league. Now, the thing about this is strange, because while it puts him in the big league, he was the least known of the people in the big league. So lots of the others were a bit, oh, who is this guy? Where do they come from? Well, who is he? But he was up there. And that really, when it came to Manchester United, as far as people around the club were concerned, and as far as...
Didn't know him?
No, they didn't know him. They'd never heard of him. But what they knew was that he owned the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And that was almost like his passport. That was his passport to... He would not, in my view, he would not have got anywhere with Manchester United if he hadn't previously bought the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
How did he get to the point of buying Manchester United and accumulating all them shares?
Some of the United shareholders were looking to sell, cash them in. That was one thing. The second thing was American American sports owners were waking up to the coming explosion and growth in European football. That's when you got people like Gillett and Hicks at Liverpool, followed by John Henry, so Stan Kroenke. I mean, there's been a wave of these people. The Glazers were in the first wave. I think what happened was that the Glazers went to a seminar given by one of the banks on the likely growth of world football. Malcolm Glazer did not have £800 million, did not have that money spare, he did not have the cash. But what he did was, he did what lots of people watching this do with their homes. He mortgaged. He went to people in New York who are not remotely interested in football. These are the hardest, most aggressive hedge funds in the world, based in Manhattan. And he went to them, and what he was able to show them, of course, was the thing I've just been talking about, which was the explosion of TV. in football and the TV rights, but he was also able to show them there is this massive club and it's got this huge support. The opportunity for marketing this club is enormous. All I can find that Malcolm Glazer has ever said about Manchester United, before he died obviously, but he said 17 words, and one of those words was franchise, and he sees it as a franchise. You see it, we see it as a club, we see it as a community, passionate about it. His eyes, it's a franchise. And I'll tell you one little story. So when he was trying to buy baseball, he came up with a proposal that the team he bought, the franchise he bought, he'd share it among 4 big cities in the States. So a quarter of their matches will be played in one place, quarter in the other, quarter in the other, quarter in the other. And people said, well, what are you doing? You can't do that. What's the point of doing that? And he said, I get 4 cities. That makes it the biggest franchise. It makes it America's team. And when he gave this interview, sitting alongside him, nodding enthusiastically, was a young Joel Glazer. Part of their mindset is the opportunity on the marketing side. He goes to these hedge funds, they lend him the money, and the security is Manchester United. It's not his security. He's not putting up his trailer parks. He's not putting up all his other shareholdings. The security is
Got nothing to worry about.
It's on Manchester United. So 660 million quid, or whatever it was, 600 million, is put on United's debt when United actually had no debt. So over the years, for 17 years, that debt had to be serviced. And meanwhile, because United is such a rich club, and because the marketing opportunities are endless. I mean, look, I was on, I'm sure we've all had situations like this. I remember being in Turkey in the middle of nowhere, just nowhere, in the middle of nowhere in Turkey. And I went into this place for a bottle of water, and there was a rack of football shirts. They were all Turkish apart from one. It's Manchester United.
Manchester United.
And that tells you everything. And so the opportunities are endless. And so the Glazers they've ended up with this cash cow. I call it in the book the world's biggest cash machine, which is a quote from someone else, but it's opposite. It is the world's biggest cash machine because over the 17 years it's paid them out. Whenever they've wanted money, it's paid them out.
Obviously, that's the biggest thing Manchester United fans object to, and the commercialisation of the club. The thing what Manchester United fans want to know, the 17 years they've been here, has there been any opportunities or any discussions of people wanting seriously to buy Manchester United? And has it ever been up for sale?
The people I know I know of that were very interested were the Saudis, Saudi Arabians. Before they bought Newcastle, they had several looks at Manchester United. They certainly made an offer, or there were talks several years ago, probably about 5 years ago now, around, it was over £3 billion.
You spoke to these people?
I saw 2 of them in Dubai, and they were working with people in Saudi Arabia, and we spent our time talking about, if you can't buy Manchester United, which club would you buy? And ideally, because they're the richest people in the world, they wanted the biggest club in the world.
Yes.
And that would make perfect sense. And they're very upset that PSG and City are owned by their rivals. And this really upsets them. I mean, because this is Middle East politics. Now we're into Middle East politics. Yeah. This has got nothing to do with whether I follow Manchester United or not. It's because Qatar owns this, and Emirates and UAE.
It's all about countries.
It's all about politics within the Middle East. And when they meet for their summit meetings, they can all, we've got PSG, we've got this. So that's what they're really into.
Who did they make approaches to? This is what people
I'm
out there.
assuming that the board, which of course ultimately goes back to the Glazers. But now you're left with this strange situation, which is that in the ensuing period, the value of top-class football clubs, brands, that's the word they use, has gone up and up. So when United was worth 3 billion, well, if Chelsea can go for more than 4 billion, what does Manchester United, what's it worth? Some people say it's worth twice that. Okay, that's 8-9 billion. Wow. Who in the world has got 8 or 9 billion?
Not Jim Ratcliffe.
Well, Jim Ratcliffe, in theory, has got 8 or 9 billion. He'd have to sell a lot of things in order to raise the money. But when Chelsea was available, he came in. He didn't. I mean, there were some people who thought he was merely doing it for show, because he came in very late, and his bid wasn't taken that seriously. Now, he might have the money. He's got a big professional cycling team. He saved or set up in rivalry the Land Rover Defender that was going. He bought it. He's set up a rival 4x4. He's obviously into these things. He's got so much money now. He can do this. I mean, he made his money in chemicals. The key thing there, though, is that who's got this sort of money? It's probably Saudi, probably single-figure individuals in the world who buy it. And
because the price is so high.
Well, there's two things. The price is very high. So then you have to ask yourself, if you're only buying it for business, how much higher can you take it? United is already number one on TikTok. It's already number one in various social media, all the rankings. New York Yankees, Manchester United, they're sort of neck and neck. So how much higher can it go? If it's not going to go much higher, why are you spending all this money? Number one. Number two, football comes at a price. So you've got the cash price, 7-8 billion, a lot of money. The price is the fans. So while the fans are the people who buy the clothing and go to the mega store and pay to watch Manchester United television and all that stuff, they're also the people who turn on you when the going gets bad. And some people don't want that. I mean, they just, no way am I going to put my wife and family in the public eye so that they are going to be hounded by Manchester United fans when the results don't go the right way. So how many people are there really like that? That's on that side. The other side of it is, though, that all the time United's going up in value, the Glazers are taking money out. So they've got this thing, amazing. They've got this, it is the biggest cash machine in the world. They want money. They take 30 million a year. United might have a bad year on the pitch. Even in the bad years, even like the season that's just gone, United carried on generating cash for the Glazers.
The point on that subject is they're generating cash. Do you ever see them wanting to sell until they get to that ceiling of 10 billion? And the only people then what could come in and buy it is someone like a Saudi to use it as a prized possession, because it wouldn't be generating any more cash.
Do I see them selling it? Well, there's in the city, bankers always say this. They always advise against selling anything, because once it's sold, it's gone.
Yeah.
And so we all think that bankers are people who like to acquire things. Well, of course they do for their clients, but they also tell their clients, we'd advise you not to sell this, because once you've sold it, it's gone. And even if you think the price is brilliant, next year it might even be more brilliant. So once it's gone, it's gone. So that's in the Glazers' mind. Why would the Glazers sell? Well, people get older. They might not want to take it on. At the moment, you've got three brothers who are heavily involved. So Joel is the most involved. At some point, he might just say, you know what, I'm not getting younger anymore. I really can't do with this. On the other hand, what does owning United mean? They don't come here. They're not going to Palace away or anything like that. That's putting in the time. It's putting in the hard yards. They're not going to watch a European match in Genoa or somewhere like that. They're just not doing it. So it's not that exhausting. It's not that taxing. I mean, all you have to do is sit in the States and do Zoom calls. The people at Old Trafford who are running the club and in London at the office there, and they're the only things you have to do. It's not that hard. I mean, I think the thing that clearly hasn't happened, because a lot of people by now would have said, I'm out. I cannot take any more of this attacks on me, my family. We're under threat. We're hated. People sing songs about killing us. I know it's football, but they don't know it's football, by the way. They don't get this in America.
From your understanding, what will they make of the protests? Not just the recent protests, the protests what have continued. Will they be concerned?
Of course they're concerned. They're human beings. Where it's defeating, self-defeating for those people making the protests is that one of the reasons that they are able to say we are keeping our distance is because of the protests. So it's now got into this circular thing where they say, we don't want to come over. We're not going to come over. We're not going to hang out with the United fans in the basement of hotel football. Christ, we're not going to do that because we get our heads kicked in. Some people, not all of them, but there'd be one or two crazy guys who would have, once they've had a bit to drink, they'd have a go at them. We're not going to do that. We don't get that in America. In America, nothing happens. We go and watch NFL. Nobody's chanting about how much they hate us. No one's burning effigies of us. No one's spray painting our chief executive's house in Cheshire. I mean, none of that happened. They think, well, I'm not going over there. Whoa, I'm not going to go all across the Atlantic and be exposed to all this, so I stay away. So that, of course, makes the United fans angrier that they're staying away. And so it goes on.
So it's just like a circle. The fans are protesting. The Glazers have got the great excuse, it's the fans' fault that we can't come over because we can't be guaranteed our own personal safety.
Exactly. Exactly. I mean, the best thing the United fans, and some people watching this would hate me for saying this, but one of the more strategic things that they could do would be not to protest, because it's not going anywhere. And you say to yourself, we need to embrace these people and start talking to them. That then does not give them the excuse. But I think, to be honest, I think things have got so bad for so long that I think they just think, oh, I'm not going to risk that. They don't come over.
It's a great excuse for not coming over, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
They've turned it back on the fans when it's the fans what didn't want them. And they've not invested in the right way what fans from cradle to grave want. It's just a vicious circle, this. And the thing is,
I can't see a solution, actually. The only solution I can see, a new manager comes in and the United start playing the United way, which I know all about. And it's attack. It's flair. It's back to how we were with the class of '92 and all that, and before that with Bobby and George and the whole legends. If they start playing like that and start winning, and the fans calm down, and there's less aggro about what's happening on the pitch, and things get a lot easier, then I can see this coming together. But it might not happen. It'll take time, and in the end, it's football, and you've got a noisy neighbour down the road, and you've got another mob down the M62, and you've got teams in London and things like that, and you can play as well as you want, but you might not win. I know that for a lot of United fans, if they played the right way, that at least would be something. But we'll have to see what happens.
No individual can buy Manchester United. It has to be someone like the Saudis, and they've tried before.
Yeah.
Well, let's hope someone comes in with the money where everyone can be happy with.
Yeah, I mean, the best owner for this club is, I'm putting the politics on one side because there is a political issue, obviously, with the Saudis, but the best type of owner for this club is somebody who loves it, wants to cherish it, regards it as the biggest thing in their lives that they own Manchester United. They want to keep it developing. They want Old Trafford to be the best ground in the country, Carrington to be the best training ground, have the best players, but they're doing it out of love for the club. And that's the best thing that could happen. That, though, might just be a pipe dream.
That is what every football fan around the world wants for their own football club.
Even at Fulham.
On that note, press the like, get your comments in, and smash that notification bell. We will be back in the future with Chris.
Yeah.
Once you finish your book and all your other little delve-ins.
It's called The World's Biggest Cash Machine, How the Glazers Made Billions from Owning the World's Biggest Football Club. It's to be published by Macmillan. That's my little advert at the end.
That's his advert, but we will be back before it's out, trust me.
Okay.